Martin's going to talk a little bit about his association and what differs them from their counterpart. What do we got here? My God. Thank you.
Thank you very much. April Marie, you're tremendous. Let me tell you something. I'm not Ted Turner. I got to tell you that right now. And I'm darn glad of it. Look, when my wife and I go to Atlanta, the upside is we get the best seat in the house. The downside is they expect me to pick up the tab. Look, I'm glad to be here in my home state of Florida. I'm back home. I live in Arlington, Virginia, but I grew up down here. I'm a University of Florida graduate, a Gator, if you will. April Marie's a Florida State native, but we get along pretty well. I used to be a newspaper man. I wrote for a chain of papers in Florida. One was the Tampa Tribune. I broadcast at WFLA and also WDBO Orlando, GBS Miami, KISS Radio over in Kissimmee, Times Union, and Jacksonville, and so forth. So I've been a reporter in Washington back when John Kennedy was in the White House. That's a long while back. Look, Neil Armstrong had not yet walked on the moon. Strom Thurmond was still a Democrat. In fact, he was the junior senator from South Carolina. That's how long I've been there. But I bring that up to point out I've seen a lot of Congresses come and go. This is the worst one I've seen in almost 50 years. It is absolutely terrible. They don't listen to the people. As Tim Phillips says, they better start listening come November 2nd. Let me touch lightly on Obamacare, we call it now health care. I remember about a year ago when all those hearings were going on, I noticed a lot of white hairs and some follically challenged perhaps, out there in those meetings, and they were really starting to get onto this issue, senior citizens, and you guys were doing a great job all over the country. You read the bill, although those that wrote it hadn't read it. And I noticed that, and I was really proud of you, and all of a sudden somebody started referring to you as being un-American. And that kind of ran through me, being a former Marine. I think you noticed I'm a Marine. Former Marine, you can be, not an ex-Marine. The only ex-Marine I know is Lee Harvey Oswald. But the fact is, most of those people, most men and women in this country have served in one branch or another of the armed services, or they know somebody that has. They've left life and limb on distant lands to give her the right to call you un-American. I won't name her, but her initials are Nancy Pelosi. And that ran through me when that happened. The most despicable thing I've ever heard Americans called. And so from that day forward over a year ago, I said, you know something? There's something headed toward Capitol Hill. Don't know what it is yet. But I think we started calling it a tsunami. In this case, I call it a senior citizen tsunami. Unless something happens to subside it, there's going to be a lot of folks looking for a new line of work come November the 2nd. And I'm not being partisan. Most of those, quite frankly, would be Democrats. But there'll be a lot of Republicans, too, unless they mind their P's and Q's. Somebody asked me earlier about the Tea Party. And I said, well, the reason it sprung up, in my opinion, is because the Republicans didn't do what they should have done when they got into power. Is that right?
Exactly.
And if they don't do it right this time, I think they're going to win the House back. They'll be tossed out over the years again, and they should be. One other point I'll make, if you're wearing this button, I get credit for coming up with the name death tax. I'm an old newspaper reporter, and a phrase or two. It's easier than said, the generation skipping a state, and whatever it is, it's too long to say. I told Herman Cain this earlier, I used to give a $1 for the beer fund every time you said the whole name, just say death tax. And that beer fund grew and grew. Because quite frankly, that's the way to do it. Get rid of it, kill it, don't wound it. So we are going to do that. I've been naming it the grave robbers tax, the grim reapers tax, the exit tax, the departure tax. We got 40 or 50 names. The stiffest tax of all, I laugh most of all. Because if nothing else, we'll shame the Congress into getting rid of it. You should not be taxed just because you died. So one other thing on the Ted Turner thing I've forgotten is Gates Sr. wrote a book a few years ago, and he gave me a couple of pages worth of credit about this thing. He said, this guy Martin put us behind the 8 ball by calling it the death tax. They want to say estate tax, meaning it's rich. Look, the rich don't pay it anyway. They set up foundations to avoid it. You ever heard of the Gates Foundation, the Buffett Foundation? Look, I don't blame them for that. But the fact is that small farmers and business people and entrepreneurs all over the country who are affected by it, you see. So he said, we knew we were losing the battle when CNN, that particular network that Mr. Turner was involved with, he said, when that network of all networks started calling the estate tax the death tax, we knew we were losing to Martin's rhetoric. So at that point, I decided to frame that particular quote and keep it in my office. Look, I'm going to close on that remark because we got some great folks coming here yet to speak to you. But it is nice to be back home. We'll be around later. Pick up one of our bumper stickers. Look forward to talking to a lot of seniors. I may sign some of you up here if I can find anybody 60 plus in the crowd. Thank you once again. Thank you.